All right, let's talk some awards here. There's always some pushback about talking MVP before the season is over. Are you doing it too early? But you know what? I think it's a fun discussion, and we are halfway through the season now after week 9, so I figured why not give my thoughts on who I have, not just winning MVP, but all of the major awards. So MVP, Defensive and Offensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and an Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. To be clear, what I'm doing in this video is I am simply saying who I think has been the best at each of those categories, in my subjective opinion, through this part of the season. I am not saying who I think will ultimately win the award. It is not a predictions video. It is simply just who I think has earned it halfway through the season. So yeah, let's just get into it, and let's not bury the lead. Let's start off with the biggest award, MVP. These are the 4 candidates. These are in order. So number 1 is Lamar Jackson. I'm going to give a couple of honorable mentions for each of these, some more than others. We'll get into it when we get into it. But yeah, I'm going with Lamar as my pick for MVP right now. I think that he's just passing at such a high level. And that's the thing about Lamar is we always talk about him as a rusher, but he's debatably been one of the best throwers of the football this season. He's debatably been the best pure thrower of the football this season, which is not something you maybe expected from Lamar Jackson. Even me, as someone who, has been a Lamar Jackson defender since day one, the first video I ever made on this channel to get over 1,000 views was saying why I think Lamar Jackson is going to work in the NFL after his first start against the Bengals. Even me, I don't know if I ever was ready for him to play at this high of a level. I think you could argue this is his best season, and the guy's already won 2 MVPs. So still a lot of season left. He is the betting favorite. A lot of times the betting favorite does not actually align with who I think has been the best player in football, but in this scenario, I do think it is fair. Number 2, Joe Burrow, I think has been also really good. I think you could even make an argument for Burrow over Lamar. In fact, a couple weeks ago I did, but I think Lamar has surpassed him mostly due to how well Lamar has played. Burrow's playing also at a really high level, and he doesn't have an incredible supporting cast. Again, I know that you have some great names with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but those guys have been banged up this season, and the offensive line is tough for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. If they can go on a run, which I don't know if they can with their defense, but if they can go on a run, I could see him start to really get into discussion. He's playing great football right now. Number 3, I went with Jaden Daniels. I really do think he is at that level. You look at the EPA stats, they're the top of the league. He is, the main contributor in that. The way that he is passing is, at a really high level. And he was a good, that was not a shock for the people who liked Daniels coming out of college. I wasn't crazy about Daniels coming out of college. I have been very wrong with him. In fairness, I liked him as a prospect. I was more worried he was going to get banged up. But so far, he's done a much better job of protecting himself in the pros than he did in college. He's worked on that thing that was a weakness in college, been a lot better at protecting himself this season. Still a hit or two, just because that's football, but done a really good job of protecting himself. Again, some of the throws he can make are Patrick Mahomes-esque. He is not playing like a rookie. That is certainly fair to say. Number 4 is Josh Allen, who, again, if you just look at the box score stats, you could maybe argue he should be higher. He is someone who the interceptions thing is weird because it's an incredibly low number, but his turnover worthy play rate is actually pretty high this season compared to his usual numbers. So that's fascinating, but still playing at a really high level, I think. So these are my 4 picks. Again, there's other people. I'm sure Lions fans will be mad I didn't put Jared Goff here. I'm sure Chiefs fans will be mad I didn't put Mahomes here, but to me, these are the top 4 right now. Defensive Player of the Year, it's another category where a lot of times I don't align with where the odds makers have it and what the favorite is, but as of right now, I am aligned. TJ Watt, I think, is having a great season, and again, he's someone who you expect him to have a great season. He's having a great season even by his standards. And I mean, again, it's just crazy how I feel like so many of his pressures result in sacks, result in forced fumbles. But even with that, he's just getting consistent pressure, period, even the ones that aren't resulting in that. So he's number one for me. I did have a little, I think Fred Warner being number two feels fair. He's, to me, clearly been the best linebacker in football this season. I did have a little bit of struggles. I wanted to get at least two honorable mentions in for each of these. I went with Myles Garrett, who I think has still played very well in a tumultuous situation in Cleveland. Yeah, that's why I decided to put him there. But, you know, I don't feel like there's a ton of competition right now for TJ Watt, to be honest. He feels pretty, you have to feel pretty good about him being number one. Offensive player of the year, I was looking at, you know, sometimes I'll put offensive lineman here, but there's not really one I look towards that I think definitely deserves a shout out. So the three, I'm going Justin Jefferson 1, which is maybe a bit of a deviation. A lot of people have Derrick Henry 1. You could go either way. I get it. I think Jefferson's done a little bit more with less, if that makes sense. But they both done a lot, right? Derrick Henry has over 1,000 rushing yards halfway through the season. I mean, he's been incredible. Justin Jefferson's been incredible. Saquon Barkley's also been very good. I had to give him a shout out, put him at number 3 with what he does both in the rushing game and the passing game. So yeah, those are my 3 offensive player of the year leaders so far. Now, coach of the year, and oh my God, we have a long list of guys, a lot of guys I wanted to give shout outs to. So let's go 10-1, why don't we? Raheem Morris of the Atlanta Falcons, of course, is a guy who I feel like, hey, the Falcons had a lot of turmoil. They've really turned things around. We have seen them start to use these receivers well. I would say the defense has taken a bit of a step back, and that's maybe the one reason why I couldn't put him that much higher. But hey, turning around a team is not easy, and we're going to see, that's going to be the case for a lot of these coaches, if you turn around a team, that can get you higher on the list. Sean Payton, I think he's doing a great job with Bo Nix's development. And again, you talk about turning around a team, right? Denver was a bit in shambles when he came over. They look like they could be a playoff team. I mean, that's definitely good. Dan Quinn, you could definitely argue should be higher on this list. He's at number 8. Again, I feel like the way this award usually goes is they just give it to the coach who, the team that surpassed expectations the most. That's not how I view it. I view it as which coach has legitimately added the most value to their team this year. And Dan Quinn's added a lot. With both his leadership, it feels like they built a winning culture very quickly there. I think the X's and O's maybe aren't otherworldly, but they have gotten better week after week as well. So I'll say that. Number 7, Sean McVay. I mean, the job him and Matthew Stafford did when they had all those injuries of finding ways to stay afloat. I mean, I know they started 1-4, but still, getting a big win against San Francisco and winning a couple other games, before getting fully healthy. I really feel like he's done a great job, and they've stayed competitive in games that they've really had no business staying competitive, and I think in large part due to the offensive coaching by the Rams. The defense is what it is. It's just not the most talented defense, but I've been very impressed with McVay. Number 6, Andy Reid. Andy Reid, I feel like is having a really good season. No one's really talking about it. But yeah, I mean, I think he's doing a great job with with a lot of the offensive play calling, not having a lot of receivers and making the most of it. And again, how much credit do you give him for his coordinator? I don't know. He hired the coordinator. Steve Spagnuolo is also, always one of the best. So Chiefs are doing very good. Mike Tomlin, again, how much credit does he get for hiring the special teams coordinator? I don't know. But man, their special teams is on fire. And again, it just goes to show that with the Steelers in general, they're always so well disciplined. They're always, making the right decisions. And Tomlin had a tough decision to make with do you go with Russell Wilson? Do you go with Justin Fields? He made the controversial one to move off of a quarterback, even though they were winning with Fields, and it worked out. So got to give him credit for that. Jim Harbaugh, another big turnaround here. The Chargers went from being a team that many people felt like, even though they had a great quarterback, is that a situation you would want as a head coach? Right off the bat, they look like they could be a playoff team. This defense went from awful to legitimately one of the best defenses in the league in 1 year. The offense, we're looking at it like, oh man, no receivers. It's been great. I mean, it's pretty crazy what Harbaugh and what this coaching staff has done. recently. Still just number 4 on the list, but he might win the award, really, and I wouldn't be mad if he does take home a trophy. Kevin O'Connell at 3 with the Vikings. Again, how much credit does he get for Brian Flores? I'll let you be the judge, but he did bring in Brian Flores, and Brian Flores has done great stuff with this Vikings defense, and I think O'Connell's done great stuff with this Vikings offense. I mean, listen, Justin Jefferson I picked as my number 1 player for Offensive Player of the Year. He's very good, but they don't have, and Jordan Addison's very good. They have a good offensive line, so I shouldn't say they don't have anything, but Sam Darnold has not ever looked anywhere close to this throughout the course of his career. He's looking like a legitimate, good, solid quarterback as of right now, even if he does maybe have his missteps, at least in the past few games. You got to credit a lot of that to Kevin O'Connell, in my opinion. And again, I watched the X's and O's. I just feel like they're consistently a smart team. So, yeah, that's number 3 on the list. I went back and forth with number 2 and number 1. I decided Matt LaFleur at number 2. Basically, the thing, why I was so close with them, I just said, well, you know what? The Lions have a better record, so that was legitimately the tiebreaker, I thought, because LaFleur done an incredible job with this offense. I mean, even the games where Love isn't playing great, they're still usually putting up points. Didn't go well in the rain, but other than that, things have gone incredibly well, and the defense has looked way better this season. Dan Campbell, I think the argument against Dan Campbell being Coach of the Year is, do you give more credit to Ben Johnson? But my argument against that argument that I just gave against myself is that I think Dan Campbell deserves credit for building a culture that was so good that Ben Johnson decided he wanted to stay in Detroit instead of going to get a head coaching job that he could have gotten with probably Washington. Instead stays with the Lions, and that you have to give credit to Dan Campbell for that. The offensive coaching is unreal. The defensive coaching is really good, and the fourth down decision making stuff is still at the top of the league for Dan Campbell. So he would be my pick for Coach of the Year halfway through the year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I mean, number 1 is going to be no surprise, right? It's kind of similar to in the Oscars when there's one movie that is nominated for Best Picture that's also in the Best Foreign Film category. It's I wonder which one's going to win that category. Obviously, if Daniels is in MVP discussion, he's the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Kind of goes without saying. So tough for everyone else on the list, but Brock Bowers has been really good with the Raiders. I'll put him at number 2, and Malik Neighbors has also been really good with the Giants. Zach Frazier, the offensive lineman for the Steelers, has had a very good rookie season. Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think he's looked great when he's been out there. And then Bo Nix, who I'm sure Broncos fans would wish he was a little bit higher. He's been very good, though. I think there's a little bit lower on him than maybe some Broncos fans are, but I'm probably higher on him than some people who aren't Broncos fans are. He's been very good. Absolutely deserves a shout-out here. But again, it's Daniels' award. Defensive Rookie of the Year is a weird one because, again, this draft was so heavily focused on offense that there's only a few defensive players you really look at and, say have even had great seasons. I do feel like there's 3 I feel good about putting on, either the award or the honorable mention. I think Jared Verse has been great for the Rams to start this year. So, he's been a real nice pickup for them. They really feel good about that draft pick. Evan Williams, he is the Packers defensive back who has played very well. Kind of him and Xavier McKinney have really, covered the middle of the field very well for Green Bay. And then Andrew Phillips of the Giants, who, has also had a very good season to start the year. So those are my 3. But I feel like Verse is probably a step ahead of whoever is number 2 as of right now. So yeah, those are my thoughts. That is the mid-season awards. Definitely plenty of these things will change. We'll see what happens, but I figured it'd be a fun video to make. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.